Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Cloak, Black Flame Eternal, out May 26 on Season of Mist. The album has 9 tracks, 50 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. They are an American black metal band. I want to start off by saying that this album never loses its focus. It has a clear idea of what it wants from itself, from the lyrical content to the sound, to the atmosphere, and definitely within the design. A design that feels very balanced, but just because it's a balanced record, it doesn't mean that the album becomes repetitive or predictable. An album that has great ebbs and flows internally within songs and from song to song, allowing you to stay connected and engaged with the experience from first all the way to the last track. And when you look at the duration of this album, 50 minutes in length, it doesn't feel that way. The record actually feels like it has around 35 minutes. So this speaks volumes in terms of the quality of the album, the quality of the experience, and how fluid, dynamic, and engaging it is, because you completely lose track of time when you're listening to it. Once you get into the sound, this record doesn't completely break away from the 2 previous albums from the band, but it definitely looks like it's going in a different direction. And that's not a bad thing. The third album is a very important record for any band, and you want to start to show that you are able to evolve and you're able to add elements to your sound that was there before, and now you're able to create a different picture using slightly different tools. And I think this album is just that, creating a different picture with slightly different tools, but never completely breaking away from what got them to this point. An album that has a very direct, a very aggressive and intensive sound, perhaps more so than any album that they've released to date. It's an album that from the first moment that you press play, you feel like you're listening to Cloak, but you feel like you're listening to a much more angrier version, pissed off version of the band. Not holding back, not forcing the listener to decipher in between lines what the album is all about, and rather putting everything on the table, allowing you to see that more direct, aggressive, and intensive nature of their sound coming into the forefront, allowing the black metal influences of this band to dictate a little bit more where this album is going, what is the soundscape, what is going to be the sound experience. One that still holds pockets of atmosphere, one that still holds pockets of more melancholy and even somberness, but definitely enhancing or turning all the way to 11 the heavier side, the blackened side of the band, and definitely the more direct approach to making music and creating songs that are not necessarily just trying to lose you within them, but also telling you exactly where they want to take you. That is the overall sound experience of this record. Now, when you talk about that sound experience, you definitely have to talk about the guitars and the drums, because this album really lives off of those 2 elements first and foremost. This is not to say that the bass doesn't have an impact in the sound, because it does, but it's not one of the elements that you could really feel popping a lot throughout the record and creating more of a signature imprint and how you're going to perceive this album. The record lives off more of the diversity of the guitars. How well played the guitars are, how well executed the guitars are throughout the entire album. It doesn't matter if you're looking at the melodies, it doesn't matter if you're looking at the leads, it doesn't matter if you're looking at the solos. The overall guitar playing on this record definitely feels a step above everything that I've heard before from Cloak. It's a little bit better textured, definitely better executed, and has a much better idea of where it needs to be within the songs and what it's trying to do to the songs themselves, giving them energy, giving them darkness, adding atmosphere, removing that, injecting a little bit more direction. The guitar sound all around, it's so well crafted, so well put together, that you're able to see ebbs and flows within the guitar playing, never mind ebbs and flows within the song in terms of the peaks and valleys and the mood swings that the tracks offer. You can see that also in the guitar playing and how textured, how layered it is at times, where you feel like everything is moving in the same direction, but with different speeds, with different intentions, with different aggressions. So kudos to them for creating a more diverse, versatile, technical, extensive guitar sounding album from beginning all the way to the end. Now the drums on this record feel like they have a wider and also deeper sound. not overly heavy to the point that they would overpower the overall experience or take away from the guitars, because this is definitely a more guitar-centric record. But if the guitars are the drivers of this album, then the drums are riding shotgun. That's how it feels. That wider presence, that deeper presence of drum sound all around from beginning to end allows these tracks to not fall too deep sound-wise, but definitely feel like they have the right roots and the right foundation in order for the guitars to have a little bit more versatility, the perfect combo, the perfect mix of elements and sound, in order for that black metal approach to be driven, to have aggression, to have intensity, to have a sense of direction, but at the same time not to feel super narrow and super thin and very grimy. There is a little bit more meat on the bone on their sound because of what the drums are infusing to the overall sound experience. And once again, impacting the guitars in a positive way, adding meat to the bone, making the overall sound a little bit more substantial and not super narrow, which is something that you see a lot on black metal records. Now vocally, the intensity of this album is also present there. It's present there because it's able to capture the lyrical content extremely well. And it's also not a one-size-fits-all approach from beginning to end. Overall, obviously, there is a modus operandum in terms of how the vocals come across, the aggression, the intensity, the darkness in them. That never really changes, doesn't matter where you are in the album. But adding some clean vocals, adding almost like some spoken word narrator or first person style approaches in these songs definitely help the songs and the tracks feel like they have a lot more to give, and it's not just the same style, same delivery, song in and song out. Because the sound has a lot of movement, because the sound has a lot of life, it's important that somewhat vocally the album offers something similar to that. And I honestly felt like this record definitely did that. And the vocals also have a deep impact in the overall atmospheric presence of the album. Not an overly atmospheric album, but definitely there are pockets within it that allow you to lose yourself ever so slightly before being jolted, waking up, and putting on that path to that final destination that you need to go. A much different record, a very unique album from Cloak when you consider the previous albums, but an album that still allows you to see their DNA being there. They're not reinventing their wheel, they're just creating a different sound or a different experience that takes elements from the past, reshapes them, molds them, and showcases you a different future. I personally really enjoy this record. I feel like it's a record that offers a more aggressive experience to their sound, but it was so well put together, and I still saw enough of the previous records in this record that it was easier to get into it, it was easier to digest, and it's easier to learn to love an album like this and still feel like Cloak is Cloak. Now, as far as my favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Ethereal Fire. This is the opening track on the record. I feel like this is a great opening track for a multitude of reasons, but perhaps the two most important ones is that this is a track that has moments, specifically in the tail end of the track, I'll say in the last third of the track, it has moments that connect really well with the previous records. So if you're a Cloak listener and you're coming in off of one of the previous albums or with the expectations from what those previous albums gave you, this song doesn't completely reset the tone, it doesn't completely change the dynamic or the narrative. It kind of includes a little bit of a foot in the past and then a foot in the present with a look in the future. That's how this track comes together. The orchestrations in the last third in the chorus are phenomenal. The darkness that they infuse, the somberness that they add, the atmosphere that they create, because it's a song that up until that point is very direct. It has darkness in it, but it doesn't necessarily allow that darkness to become the atmosphere that surrounds the song. You're still concentrating on how driven the guitars are, or how nice they sound in terms of the vibe that they have, in terms of the intensity and aggression that they offer. You're concentrating on the vocal performance as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but all really well combined as one to give you almost a sense of uniformity across the track. So then when you infuse that piece there towards the end in the chorus, it almost makes you take a step back because it changes the perception of the song. The song went from being very driven, not necessarily atmospherically pushed, to allowing that atmosphere to come into the forefront and take hold. Really interesting dynamic, really interesting way of constructing a song. Adding that piece there makes this track a lot more impactful than it would otherwise be. Next you have Shadowlands. Definitely a song that allows the atmosphere to creep in the forefront. It's not pushed into the background. It's not an element that pops in and out. It's definitely a little bit more, I wouldn't say a driving force of the song, but it's a little bit more predominant, noticeable, measurable from start all the way to the end. The drums create a lot of the heaviness that this track has, and they create that heaviness in the background, allowing the sound that comes in the forefront almost to feel like a mist. The guitar sound, even the vocals to a certain extent, really feel separated from where the guitars are, and that separation allows everything else that is not connecting with the drum sound to almost levitate. But that aspect also adds that atmosphere that the overall song has. So once again, it's not necessarily one element creating the atmosphere, but rather the sound experience of how the track is put together that creates that atmosphere, that creates that vibe, that creates that mist. It's a great song from that point of view. The guitars sound excellent throughout the entire track. Very diverse, offering you different elements or different perspectives of what they can do, staying connected from start to end, but still very diverse, so that you see the life and you definitely see the ebbs and flows that the track has in the guitar sound itself. Last but not least, Eye of the Abyss. Eye of the Abyss is a dark, heavy, methodic song, super strong vocally, but a song that's not just methodic from beginning to end. The methodic elements of this track allows the bursts of energy or the jolts of sound that speed up things to feel even quicker, to feel even more direct, to feel even more punchy, almost breaking through a wall. And this is an important element because it allows the track to gain movement. It allows the song to feel like it's moving a little bit faster, or that it has a sense of direction. Also allowing the overall sound on this track to feel like the background, to feel like the soundtrack, and then putting the vocals in the forefront, putting the lyrical content in the forefront, putting the storytelling in the forefront, allows this to be more of a story in a musical format than almost a song itself. It's very unique from that perspective. It's a song that sound-wise, it may bleed into the overall experience of the record, and it might be harder to tell the forest from the trees when it comes to the differences of the song, but I really feel the aspect of creating a track that sound-wise is a soundtrack and vocally is a story allows this to be a different song, almost to be theatrical at times, but still not completely disconnect itself from the overall flow and dynamics of the album. This is it, Cloak, Black Flame Eternal of May 26 on Season of Mist. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.